So there are many ways in which we search for the truth. And I'm reminded of those wonderful letters to God from children. And one of the children said, "Dear God, did you really make the giraffe like that, or was it a mistake?" So we're always searching, we're always wondering what's going on. And Swami takes this, Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda, takes this whole issue of truth in many deep directions, and I'll see what I can do with this morning. We're talking about the deepest truth. There are many truths we search for in the world, and they're about informing us of what's really going on. And what we're talking about this morning is that information which assures us that God is caring for each and every one of us, assures us that if we turn with sincerity to that inner light, we will receive beneficial guidance. And this is important to know. And what the reading is suggesting is that when people aren't ready to understand the full picture of what this world is all about and why we're here, we have to allow them to go at their own pace, as we did. So, in many cases, actually, religion practiced covers the truth. And what I mean by that is it's not necessarily fully aware of the inner trip that we can take. There's many wonderful rituals and wonderful ceremonies that help us to feel the presence. But there's very few churches that understand the depth of some of those ceremonies. I was not raised a Catholic, but I have many images in my mind of people who were truly attuned when they were taking communion. And whether I believe in what's going on there, I could see that they received, in truth, a great, great blessing. It's just very interesting. So it's really dependent. The rituals and the ceremonies that you take part in are enormously dependent on your attitude and your point of view and your attunement. So truth isn't something that you necessarily get right away. It's a process, because as we move through our lifetimes, we are hopefully opening up more and more to an understanding of why in the world we are here and what are we supposed to be doing. So the deepest truths are not like checking books out of a library. It's not found in that way. It's found in a deeper inner attunement. And if you're not ready, you just set it aside. I'm sure all of us remember when we did that. We just didn't have any sense that this could be true. Our founder, Swami Kriyananda, was a tremendous doubter. And he recognized as his life progressed, and he was asked by his guru, Yogananda, to lecture, to talk with people, to constantly be in the forefront. He recognized that people could come to him and find a very compassionate person because he had every doubt that they ever had. He recognized that there was a community of understanding. And so in our relations, for instance, with our families, there's no reason to be concerned that they're not at all interested in Ananda. We're only interested when we're interested, you know. And people are not to be pitied because they don't have what you have. You have what you have because you're ready for it. And so the process must be accorded to everyone that we know. And so that's why Ananda does not believe in proselytizing. We believe in making available what we understand from our gurus here, but not forcing it, because it just doesn't work. The mind rebels. Because our story is really quite fantastic. The fact that this world is just one place where we can act out our learning and our understanding and our experimenting. You know, that you read the autobiography of a yogi and you get to chapters where it's just beyond imagination what he's exposing you to. But I remember when I picked up the autobiography and nothing fazed me, and I was very new at all of this. Nothing fazed me in that book. I was just so ready for it. And so Babaji appears to Lahiri in the fields for a moment. And many people close the book and say, this is too weird. I went, okay, this is nice. Expansion, expansion, expansion. It was thrilling. It was really thrilling. So the essence of the reading this morning is telling us that no, truth is not democratic in the sense that we just spill it out for everyone. Because when you're not ready and you hear things that are too fantastic, you shut the door, and that puts you back a ways. So rejection of the life-giving force is challenging, because the truth is that all of us are here for the purpose of finding God. And as Yogananda says, the time for finding God has come. This particular time, when there's so much strong spiritual vibration in the air, as well as lots of conflict, but let's focus on the positive vibration, because that's what we're here to express, to encourage people to be compassionate toward our issues. And because we're here with a purpose. All of us are here with a purpose. And so when we first come in the door, we've kind of gotten that. There's something going on here that's mysterious and hidden, but we want to know more. Maybe here in this temple, we'll hear something more that will interest us. And so that's how it works for everyone. It's just gradual, gradual, gradual. I've been planning and then finally on Friday night delivering the first class in a series that is studying the life of Ramakrishna and Master Mahashaya and Vivekananda. Now, if these names are unfamiliar, these were great souls who lived in the late 1800s in India and brought to the Indian people enormous new inspiration for seeking God. And Ramakrishna was a wild man. He was rarely in his body. He was in ecstasy much of the time, very much available to whoever wanted to walk in the door. So if someone walked in the door on Ramakrishna, they would have had a lot to absorb. They would have had a lot to absorb. That was truth just out there. really out there. The lovely thing is Ramakrishna's total absorption in God, total love, total compassion, total bliss. He was someone in association with our Guru Yogananda. And that's what makes the story so important and interesting, because Yogananda had a real mystical connection with Ramakrishna. You could say they were friends. And so if I speak of Ramakrishna a lot these next couple of weeks, forgive me, it's just impossible not to. There's a story where Swami Kriyananda, when he was very new at Self-Realization Fellowship with Yogananda, he was put right out in front to talk to people. And you can imagine all of this understanding of our purpose was finding God. All of this was new to Swamiji. But he had no question after he read the autobiography of a yogi that this was the path he was following. So Master just threw him right out front. And there was one time where Kriyananda describes, he was at a gathering, and there was a man there that began to talk with him, and he was a psychiatrist in Los Angeles. And Swami began talking to him about miracles. Well, the man's face just went blank, of course, and Swami said, I kind of imagined he was looking in his appointment book to see when he could fit me in. And when he got home that night, Yogananda said to him, best not talk about miracles, because Yogananda knew what was going on. And that's a moment when you're speaking the truth, and yet nobody's ready to hear it. So that doesn't make any sense. We have to be much more intuitive in our relationships with people and our way of sharing what we understand and what we're following. I know I refer to this book a great deal, but there's a wonderful book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's written by a man named Viktor Frankl. And he was a survivor of the Holocaust. And he developed, when he came through that experience, he developed a very deep understanding of how to help all kinds of people with all kinds of issues. And he suggested that it didn't really matter what happened to you and what you expected from life, but rather what life expected from you. And I think that's a lovely truth to work with, because what we've done for many lifetimes is built enormous expectations of what should come to us and what we should have. We should have had that promotion. We should have had that guy. We should have had this or that. But that's not how it works. We're here to learn the truth about ourselves. And the truth about ourselves is that we are here to become clear of all of our issues that hold us close inside ourselves. We're here to serve others, to open up in the purest possible way, and to let go of our hang-ups. The truth is that we are made in the image of God. We are made to be those people who will serve with total compassion and total openness. And that's the truth. So, when Master came, Yogananda came to America, he actually said he found that Americans are the most spiritually curious people in the Western Hemisphere. So that's very interesting that he had that sense. And he came in 1920. And he came and he walked down the streets of the cities in a robe and a turban. You can imagine what an amazing thing that must have been for people. And if people could stop and tune in, if they were ready for that, they were encountering a saint. They were encountering God incarnate. And they were very much promoted on their way toward realizing their own joy and their own bliss within. So when we talk about truth being democratic, we're not talking about it hidden because we're holding it close. We're talking about the fact that we each have to be ready, because until we're ready, it seems like nonsense. Because think about it, we're here on this earth and we have so many interesting things that we can do and accomplish and enjoy. For someone to come and say to you, there's more, we have to come to that ourselves. We have to have experiences that aren't totally manifested. We have to have experiences that cause suffering and that cause pain, so that we can say to ourselves, wait a minute, maybe there's something more going on here. And the wonderful thing is, there's something more, much more going on here. And we are here to take part in it. And so I have a quote here from the Bhagavad Gita. God is nectar for the thirsty. And when we begin to search for the truth of our existence, and a quote like that perhaps jolts us awake, then we find where happiness resides, which is within. So don't be formal with God. And I can say this after immersing myself in Ramakrishna. That man was not formal with God. He was informal. He would dance, he would sing, he would shout, he would just display all kinds of ways in which the bliss was filling his being. So Yogananda says, play with him. Play with God. Tease God, if you'd like. Scold him, if you feel to. Although always with love. He's the nearest of the near and the dearest of the dear. So, again, Ramakrishna. He was waiting for his true disciples at a certain point in his time. I think he waited about 20 years. And I think the same was true for Yogananda. He waited for those who really were ready to take the steps into a new understanding. And what Ramakrishna wanted, what he had this huge temple on the banks of the Ganges that had been built for the service that he would give to the world, although he hadn't appeared yet. So the lady who built the temple had a premonition that this was going to be needed and used, which it certainly was. Ramakrishna entered that temple when he was very young. He was a Brahmin, so one of the Brahmin's jobs was to be a priest in a temple. But Ramakrishna wasn't for it. He was too playful, he was too naughty, he was too... he didn't like organization, he didn't even like arithmetic. It gave him the willies. He was ready just for God's work. And so those who came, can you imagine? I mean, it's one thing for us to read the autobiography of a yogi, but what if you walked through a doorway and saw someone absolutely mad for God, dancing, singing, crying out. And that's what anyone could do in Calcutta in 1860. It's interesting because 1860, I began, it sort of rang a bell. I go, wait a minute, 1860s when Ramakrishna was serving, those are the years of the Civil War. So Abraham Lincoln and Ramakrishna shared the world at the same time. I think that's fascinating to know. So I pushed further and realized that the 1870s was when the Impressionists were trying to find a place to display their art in Paris. So they shared the world with Ramakrishna. I just love that. That makes him contemporary, you know? And anyway, when Ramakrishna and when Master received their disciples, then they were working with people whose consciousness they could lift. Not lots of questions, not asking this and that, but absorbing a reality which existed within themselves. And that's why we walk through the doors here. We have a feeling that there's much more to our lives than we know. And we want to understand. And so we become disciples of this path. And we listen to Yogananda. And we struggle with the world's demands. But we know that if we get our attitude right, we're doing God's work in the world. And that's the most important. So, since it is God's world, it only works best when we follow His plan.
So this is in the form of a prayer. So if you'd like to close your eyes and pray silently as I read this out. This is from the book Promise of Immortality by Swami Kriyananda. Make me aware of your consciousness within and around me. I offer myself up to you for transformation, for you alone see my divine potential. May my thoughts become your divine inspirations, my consciousness your infinite bliss. Introduce me to God. Om Shanti. Amen.